What's up, fellow shroppers? Welcome back to Shropp Stories. Thanks everyone for tuning back in, and thanks everyone for bearing with me. I finally got another video put together for you guys. Today we're going to talk to you guys about shortboards, specifically this new one that I'm developing with Infinity Surfboards. We haven't came up with a model name yet, but it's in the works, and it'll probably be dropping within the next month or so. But it's a high-performance shortboard. Right now, it has a squash tail on it. I guess I'll unveil it now. Let's just do that. So basically it's your standard high performance shorty thruster, has a squash tail, and typically I really don't like squash tails. I've noticed them being not quite as drivey as I'd like, and they just slide around a lot. They're hard to kind of control. It's just what I've noticed personally. So we kind of started it here because it's a good base. A lot of people really like the squash tail surfboards, whether they're professionals or not. So we kind of just started here as a strong base, and we're going to develop from there. So this is actually the second version of this specific model that we've worked on, and it lit up. So the thing's magic, but I wanted to talk to you guys about a couple different things that I changed, or I asked Dave Bainey to actually change, to try to make the board surf better or more familiar to me. And I want to hear your take on it in the comment section. So for now, we're going to go for a shroud. We're going to meet you guys back here, and then we're going to talk about this board specifically, and what I did to change it. All right, we're back. So it was a fun day. I know there's a bunch of clips of some of my homies bodyboarding, so don't hate on the bodyboarders. I just want to start it off with that because those guys get more barreled than all of us, and that's like the main goal in surfing, is to get barreled, right? Like, come on, let's be real with ourselves. So the bodyboarders, they get the most barreled. If you show up to a surf spot and you see mostly bodyboarders out there, you probably know you're in a good place. That's at least how I gauge it when I'm on surf trips. So anyways, let's talk about surfboards, because that's why we're all here. We all surf. So basically what I wanted was a drivey shortboard that felt good rail to rail and did not slide a lot, kind of like I previously mentioned about the squash tail situation here. So the first rendition of this board was a bit more curvy. It's actually right here. Hang on one sec. Oh. So it's a bit more curvy, this first model of this board, specifically in the tail portion of the board. So I know it's kind of hard to tell in the video, but kind of right here where my hand's at, there's a bit more curve in the outline versus this one. So this one is meant to be a lot straighter, which will help with drive quite a bit. So a hippie surfboard, hippie as in like these little hips is what I'm talking about, this like curve right here. I call it the hip of the surfboard, other people have as well, I don't know, I just kind of picked it up. But it seems to like draw more like round surfing, I guess, like very on rail and like kind of all over the place up and down, which typically when I'm surfing, it's like more of a straighter line, and like I try to be more powerful in my turns. Not saying that I'm very successful at that, but that's what I try to go for. So what I noticed with this board was it was pretty wiggly and kind of hard to control and keep under my feet. There was moments where it worked really well, but it mostly worked the best in a really steep wave, which I do surf often. So that was kind of good, but I could just tell there was something missing from it. Like I didn't know exactly what it was, but I had an idea. So my idea was straighten out the outline, right? Get this curve to kind of be a little straighter out the tail. We actually narrowed up the 12-inch mark. You measure from the tip of the tail to right about here. We narrowed the 12-inch mark on the tail and on the nose. So, you know, this looks like a bladey thruster, right? But when you measure it in comparison to, let's say, a Channel Islands or a Timmy or something like that, it actually has a quite round outline. The width on the actual board is 18.88, which is exactly the same as this board here. They're both the exact same board, 5'11", 1888, 2.5. Yeah, 2.5. So they're literally the exact same surfboard as far as dimensions go, but it's these little tweaks that we kind of went for when we were making this new one. So, like I said, we narrowed it up, 12-inch mark, nose and tail, and there's a flat spot in these boards. Every surfboard has it. Whether you know it or not, it does. So there's a portion of the board, probably like right about here, actually on this board, where the rocker line is almost flat, if not actually flat, right? So that part of the board is where I think, I don't know this, but I think that's where you get the planey feeling, like where it's just planing on top of the water and you're not really working for it. It's just kind of gliding. That's where that flat spot comes into play. Now, whether you're more of a front-footed surfer or a back-footed surfer, that flat spot needs to move. I think I'm more back foot oriented in my surfing approach. Drop in the comments if you think I'm more front-footed, but that's my take on it. But what we did was we took the flat spot, which was further up in the board, and we moved it back towards the fins a little bit more, which is in my previous boards, the Timmys, the flat spot was further back in the board. So I think that actually helped a lot going to this new one, to actually get a little more drive and a little better board feel out of it. So it felt faster, it felt livelier, and it felt just kind of like all around better. You know, when you're on rail, you can actually hold a good rail line and push through it. Whereas this board over here, the old one, when you started to push, it would either catch a rail or it would slide out. So this board will actually push back at you a little bit more. So aside from the 12-inch mark change, the flat spot coming back, we also thickened the rail line a little bit. So the old rail was like a little more down, a little pinchy. Like it kind of felt like it had like, I don't know how to explain it other than like a pinchy kind of rail. Whereas this rail is a little more full. So you can see like in the curve of my hand here, it's like a nice like round happy rail line. Whereas the other one maybe was like a little more pinched out like that or something. And that's just me holding it in my hand and kind of how it felt to me. And that's the best way that I can interpret it. So call me wrong if you want, but that's fine. And another thing that I did with this board too was I took, actually they're not in it right now, and I guess this is what I've been riding. It's the True Aim's thruster. It's the standard True Aim set. But what I had tried in the previous video, which you guys watched, was me switch it from something similar to this, where they're all three the same size, to something where the trailing fin is a little bit smaller than the front fins, which should, in theory, help loosen the board up when you have a flatter tail, right? Because that like gives you a little bit of less fin out the back of your board to give you a little more pivot. Now, when you have a lot of tail rocker, you want to add more drive, because that curvy part of the tail is going to want to like spin around and get all wiggly on you. So in the opposite aspect, if your tail is really flat, it's going to hold a nice long line. Now, I want to also say, this is all just my theory. You know, I've learned a couple things here and there from different shapers or different fellow surfers as well, but I want to hear your 2 cents on it too. That was the whole point of this video. I'm not telling you what's right or wrong. I just kind of wanted to talk about my theory with boards and what I've experienced, and wanted to hear your take too. So this is the new model. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think we're going to call it the small block. So it's going to be available for sale here coming very soon. It is not yet, but Infinity Surfboards here in Dana Point, they make great boards. Dave Bainey and Dan Bainey both actually make great surfboards too. So, but yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on this board. That's what I changed. And I would like this exact board actually to be more drivey without changing the tail. So if you have some 2 cents that you want to throw in about how to make a board more drivey in your experience, I'm all ears. Let's hear it. So thanks everyone for tuning back in. Like, comment, subscribe, do the whole deal, share it to your buddy. And we'll crank out another one for you guys hopefully next week. Catch you later.